Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the annual Raj Manek Memorial Banquet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you can make your way into the main ballroom here after sharing some social time out in the lounge area there. So if you could please make your way to your assigned tables as quickly as possible, it would be very much appreciated, and we will get our evening underway as quickly as possible. We've got a terrific evening planned for you tonight. We're going to be speaking to one of the successful young entrepreneurs in Canada. We'll find out more about his story. We'll also give you a bit of an update with regard to what's going on with the Raj Manek Mentorship Foundation here in Saskatoon and in Alberta. So we'll have all of that information for you later on. And if we could please take our seats, that would be very much appreciated. We're just about to get underway. I'm so happy you're here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Just a few more people to come in, and then we'll get things rolling for this evening. All right, I think we're about to get underway. So if you could please take your chairs, your assigned tables, we will get our evening underway. We've got a very interesting evening planned for you tonight, a lot of different things going on, and we certainly appreciate you being here tonight. Good evening. My name is Jeff Rogstad. I'm from CTV. I'm very happy to be your Master of Ceremonies for this evening for the 22nd Annual Raj Manek Memorial Mentorship Banquet. We are very happy you are all here. There are so many people that we will be thanking throughout the evening for their not only attendance but support of the Raj Manek Foundation. And we want to say thank you for being here in attendance tonight. We are here to talk about mentorship and how it supports a strong business community. And tonight is another celebration of another year of business success and mentoring. We are actually live streaming this event to Edmonton, and so we want to wave to our Edmonton friends, the executive committee there in Edmonton, mentors and proteges who are all supporters, and they are celebrating remotely, as I mentioned, on live stream. So we'll give them a wave and say that we're eating great. We don't know what they're up to right now. And if you wandered in here tonight and you're looking for flooring samples or wall decor, that's in the other part of the building. Home Styles is on all week. We can talk about cork floors. Cork floors. They're so comfortable. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, it's very kind that you had to have you here today to help us out and support the Raj Manek Mentorship Foundation. This has become a real rite of spring here in the city of Saskatoon, and we're glad you're with us tonight. We certainly want to thank so many people that have helped us out, but we are going to get things underway. The first person we are going to call on to speak to us tonight is MLA Erica Lawson. So, Mr. Lawson.
Well, thanks a lot, Jeff, and thank you everyone for the warm welcome. It's good to see my friend, His Worship, Charlie Clark. I can never get used to saying that as we served together on City Council for a few years. And you know, I look around the room and I see a lot of good friends. We've got Keith Moen from the NSBA, and so Keith is a friend. I don't know if you'd say he's a good friend, but he's a fair friend anyway. You see Darla Lindbergh from the Chamber of Commerce as well. And of course, Kent Smith-Windsor. I thought I saw Kent. I'm sure he's here. He never misses. There he is. Oh, yeah, his back is to me. I see that a lot. So I'm very proud to be here on behalf of Premier Scott Moe, and I only hesitated because it's a new change. And I almost said Premier Brad Wall the last speech I gave yesterday, and that was embarrassing. So on behalf of Premier Scott Moe and your government of Saskatchewan, thank you for the opportunity to join you here this evening. Your government is very proud to be a contributor to this event, as well as to this excellent program. For 22 years, the Raj Manek Mentorship Program has been matching emerging entrepreneurs with individuals who are best suited to prepare and guide them for what lies ahead. For 2018, the program has matched 40 of these entrepreneurs with the best mentors possible. These mentors offer the program's participants access to knowledge and expertise that is truly invaluable. They do more, however, than simply provide a strong start or a helping hand to promising business people. In so many cases, they are helping people realize their dreams. In doing so, they also provide a crucial springboard for growth and prosperity in our province. Small businesses, and that's those with less than 50 employees, are the backbone of Saskatchewan's economy. There are about 150,000 businesses in our province. Over 98% of them are small business. They are active in virtually every sector of the economy. Most importantly, over half of them are based outside of Regina and Saskatoon, and in fact are across our province. They are this widely dispersed base is the lifeblood of many, many families as well as communities. It is the foundation of our economic strength. It is also the foundation of our future. This program enables the sharing of knowledge and experience, which can help launch careers, start businesses, generate investment, create jobs, and stimulate diversification. This is the spirit of service that Raj Manek personified. He was a mentor himself and placed a very high value on business development in this province. His commitment is alive and well and is still making a difference through all of you here tonight. It's an incredible legacy and a worthy one. Not surprisingly, the program works both ways. Mentors have the personal opportunity to see things from a new perspective and be exposed to new ideas. Ultimately, this program is about stoking the furnace of ideas that drives innovation and growth in our economy. This is especially important to us in Saskatchewan. This is because one of the biggest advantages we enjoy here in this province is our potential for business opportunities. This springs from many things: our talent, our resources, and our willingness to work together to get things done. For our part in government, we understand that the most effective way to help is by creating the best possible environment in which to do business and then get out of the way. Modernizing regulation is a practical method of achieving that goal. Your government is committed to identifying and removing barriers to business and investment wherever possible. Reducing red tape helps clear the path for growth and activity. This is how we are striving to enable the kind of increased economic engagement and prosperity that benefits everyone. The Raj Manek Mentorship Program is one of our best and most successful examples of how to make that happen. Over the past 2 decades, this program has sponsored a total of over 300 years worth of mentorships. These relationships have left a footprint of success across our province. We believe our future lies in a diversified and robust economy that supports commercialization and entrepreneurship. New ideas and innovation will be the currency of that future. Our entrepreneurs are the people who help our future take shape. By allowing our entrepreneurs to tap into existing knowledge and experience, we give them a head start that helps to enable this process and actually accelerate it. On behalf of your government of Saskatchewan, thank you for everything you've done and accomplished over this past 22 years. Congratulations and good luck to all the program participants, and thank you especially for the opportunity to support you. Celebrate your success and repeat it often. I wish you all continued success as we build Saskatchewan together. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Thanks very much, Mr. Olafson. And you mentioned his name earlier, and now I will call on His Worship Mayor Charlie Clark to bring greetings on behalf of the City of Saskatoon. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Jeff. And I also want to thank you for the opportunity and to be here and to greet everybody here at Prairieland Park on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis for this. This is the third Raj Manek banquet I've been to in the last 3 years. And so I first of all want to really acknowledge the Kanchan and Raj and the whole Manek family for the work that you've done to carry on the legacy that Raj Manek left to the community here. And it's quite a remarkable legacy. And to Emilia Lawson, all the community leaders that are here and dignitaries, I do have to say I almost was late because on the way coming down here, I had this little window of time to go by my house and try and open the door on the underneath my porch because we have a resident skunk that has moved in to my backyard, and it might have come over from Carl Miller's place actually, who lives nearby, and I got a message from my wife because last night the smell of the skunk actually got into our house and affected sleep, and I phoned the city today to say, I understand you have a program for getting rid of skunks. And they said, well, that doesn't actually start until April. So you're stuck and then I was like, well, who am I going to phone then to complain about this? So I had that was at about 5, and I had to make sure that I could get here on time, and I had to go and open this gate and hope I didn't show up here covered with the smell of the skunk, and I was successful. So I'm trying to send it over to Carl's place. And I'll let you know how that goes. Tomorrow I'm going to be giving a talk as part of an immigration conference for federal immigration because the federal government is doing consultations here. And I was just thinking about the question about, should we have more immigrants come to Saskatoon? And this is part of what I or what I've been asked to speak about. And when you think about the impact of immigrants to our province and the fact that our province in so many ways has been made up of immigrants who've left an incredible legacy, look at the impact of Raj Manek, who came in 1979 to make a life, make a home, raise a family here in our province and in our city. And here we are, however many, I'm not going to be able to do the math right away here later, however many years later, all together, because of a program that he helped to start and his family has carried on as a legacy, bringing together mentors and proteges. And I looked at the list and I see many of the different community entrepreneurs and businesses and leaders that you all represent. Out of the spirit of collaboration and cooperation and working together that I believe is one of the really fundamental things that we have as a strategic advantage in our city. I hear about it often when I hear of people who talk about what our strengths are and people who visit our city. And it's the vision of people like Raj and the Manek family that have helped to establish and carry that on. And I was just talking to Kenshin about the fact that nothing against Edmonton, but it's been harder to establish this in Edmonton, as I understand. And that's because of I believe, the spirit of working together that exists so strongly here in our city. And Ken, I know you've been a part of this for many years, and many of you who really became the infrastructure to help make sure that this mentorship program could grow and thrive. And I was just talking to a young woman who is one of the new proteges in the program from a physiotherapy business in Stonebridge. I didn't catch her name. Who's now benefiting from that entire legacy. So this is what we're going to need to do to make sure we can continue to succeed in the future as a city, is keep identifying how do we reach out, build each other's confidence, build each other's talents, work together, and recognize that that's how we build a stronger community, a stronger economy, and a greater future for our children. So thank you, everybody, for all the work that you're doing to do that, and for giving me a chance to address you tonight. Thank you.
Today, the world's booming population looms like a storm on the horizon. Some forecast another 2 billion mouths to feed by the year 2050. Whatever tomorrow brings, one company will be fully prepared for it. Introducing Nutrien, an agricultural leader that brings Potash Corp and Agri together. Now the largest combined producer of potash, nitrogen, and phosphate, Nutrien offers an unparalleled distribution platform, including more than 1,500 local farm centers and generations of farming expertise, all of which can help farmers produce more per acre. Together, we provide products that are from the earth and for the earth. Nutrien, feeding the future.
And Nutrien is one of the main sponsors of tonight's event, and we would like to call on Aaron Fornwald. He is the Senior Director of HR with Nutrien, and of course, we all saw the signs change on the buildings downtown, so yes, it's official. It's Nutrien now. So if Aaron could come up now and give us a few remarks on behalf of Nutrien, that would be very much welcomed.
Good evening. I actually didn't know we were going to show a video, so I was going to sort of talk about Agri and Potash Corp and who we really are, because Nutrien's such a new word in the community. But what I wanted to assure everyone is, first and foremost, right off the bat, is that Nutrien may be a new name and two companies come together, but our support of the community is not going to waver. We're very committed to supporting where we work and where we live, and Saskatoon's a big part of that, and Saskatchewan, of course, is a huge part of that. We're very proud to be here. I believe now it's the 8th year that we've sponsored the mentorship program and the legacy of Raj Manek, and we're very proud to be doing that. We wholeheartedly support his vision to see small and medium-sized businesses grow and prosper, with mentors providing knowledge and perspective. Nutrien has worked with suppliers who've come from this program, and we've appreciated their professionalism and expertise. We support the program because it fosters entrepreneurial spirit and skill. When businesses grow and thrive, it keeps our economy strong, and we all win. The bottom line is important, but we genuinely appreciate companies who want to add value to their operations, who are seeking to be ahead of the curve in areas like training, creating an inclusive workforce, and protecting the environment. Now, as was mentioned, I work in HR, and as an HR professional, mentorship is near and dear to my heart. It's an opportunity to gain and pass on knowledge, and it's both ways. I've been a mentor with the Edwards School of Business for 10 years now, and I've learned a lot from students, and hopefully they've learned maybe a little bit from me going back the other way. But it's been a very great relationship for me in that case to be able to share ideas and actually begin a dialogue with a student, not just sort of be preaching at them, but actually talk to each other. You know, as supervisors, sport coaches, teachers, professors, and for that matter, as parents, we are all actually mentors on a full-time basis, and we need to take that job seriously. And if both parties come together, the mentor and the protege, are committed to the process, it can be an invaluable learning experience. To have a program of this nature to assist with the coordination is a truly blessing for anyone who they don't know how to get involved and how to find a mentor and how to become involved. And a program like this gives them that opportunity, and that's very important and very appreciated for everyone, I believe, that takes part. There's something very powerful and reassuring to know you have someone who won't judge a question and will listen to you without worrying what the other person will think of you. I've experienced that with students. They're like, I don't want to ask my professor because I don't want to sound like I'm dumb. Yeah, but I just say, look, just ask me the question, we'll talk it through. And I've never had a dumb question yet. My experience with working with people. A mentor is just simply someone there to talk it through and usually tell them, I've been in your shoes, but it's all right, we can work through this. And they can tell you how they got there in their experiences in the past. So in closing, I just want to thank all the mentors for the work you've done with your proteges over the past year. Congratulations to the proteges for the growth they've achieved, whether it's measured on a balance sheet or in personal development. Special congratulations for the award winners that will be announced later, and in advance of that, congratulations. And just thank you to everyone for inviting us and to organize this great dinner and this event. And I'm looking forward to Danielle's story and message later. I'm sure it will be very inspiring, a young entrepreneur that we can hear from and learn from. So thank you, and have a good evening.
Thanks very much, Mr. Fornwald. And it is great to hear that even under a new name of Nutrien, that the commitment to the community is going to continue on, because Potash Corp has certainly been a strong supporter of so many things in Saskatoon over the years. And so it's reassuring to hear that this is going to be going forward. We are going to be going forward with our dinner, but before we have our meal, we would like to call on Daria Malin to come up and offer grace. Daria?
Let us enjoy good food and good drink, and let us thank all whose efforts have set them before us. Let us enjoy good companionship, and let us each one be good company to one another. Let us enjoy ourselves without guilt, but let us not forget that many are less fortunate.
Thank you, Daria. And now we will allow the Prairieland Park staff to guide your tables to the buffet tables in an orderly fashion. I don't want to see no fighting, no Gordie Howe elbows. We're all going to get to eat. So we'll turn this over to the staff here at Prairieland Park. Enjoy the meal, and we'll come back with more of our evening and, of course, our keynote speaker as well. Enjoy. And just one other note, we do have a selfie wall at the back. It is I guess the kids call it a step and repeat wall. So if you want to take some selfies tonight and doing some things on social media, if you wouldn't mind adding the hashtag Manek Mentorship, please do so, and we would love to share it this evening on social media. So if you're planning to do that, please hit that hashtag Manek Mentorship. We'd appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats. We're about to begin our keynote presentation with our special guest here tonight. So if I could get everyone to get to their seats, or, sit at the table you're hanging out with now, because it's like, oh, I'm with a cooler table now. I'm going to stay here. So if you're just about settled, thank you so much for your attention. And we're going to be doing something a little different this year with our keynote address, because it won't be a traditional keynote address. You may have guessed that we've got these two chairs up here, and one will be for me, and one will be for our special guest, because we're going to be doing a bit of a sort of a fireside chat or an interview. I don't know if I'm up to that or not. I don't do that very much, so we'll be doing that, and then we are going to take some questions from the audience. So if you've got some questions for our special guest, we can certainly do that. So before I bring him up here, I think many people know a little bit about our special guest. Originally from, he certainly went to the University of Toronto and now makes his home in Montreal. In 2015, Forbes magazine listed him as one of the top 30 under 30. So he's an amazing entrepreneur. We're going to find out a little bit more about his background rather than me tell you about his ideas and sort of the kernels of some of the ideas that have gone on to great success in his life. We just might as well just bring him on up here. Here he is, the CEO of Ooh La La Mobile, Daniel Jamir.
All right. Well, this. Oh, hey, these are good chairs.
All right.
They're comfortable. There you go.
They're pretty nice. Yeah.
Pretty nice indeed. Now, it's awfully nice of you to come to Saskatoon and talk about not only the business side of things, but sort of the road to success, because it's not always a straight rocket path to the top. For people who aren't familiar with Ooh La La Mobile, tell them about it. Like, what is it?
Sure. But before that, I just want to say it's my first time in Saskatoon. Just love the people. I mean, I had a haircut. So, interesting story. Last night, because I flew in and I was in San Francisco before this, I need to have a haircut. And I walk into the hair salon, and just the amount of care that they took. Oh, you're from outside of Saskatoon? I'm like, oh, okay, welcome. Go here, go there. I had like a full itinerary for the next 2 weeks, what to do here. I was like, wow, this place is awesome. So on that note, Ooh La La Mobile, we're an education technology company. We focus in higher education. And specifically, we're building mobile software for universities and colleges. And what we do is we use machine learning and smart algorithms to help universities understand how to personalize the student journey and how to help them graduate successfully. And this is important because not all students are the same, right? You have students from different communities. The challenge is a first-generation student who comes to college, who's probably the first member in his community to go to college, is very different than an international student. It's very different than a student from the Aboriginal community and so on. And it's really important for universities to provide a success path to every single student. And that's kind of what we do. And our story is your typical Canadian entrepreneurial story where I met my co-founder at University of Toronto, and we literally hijacked our basement library in our residence until they kicked us out, and that's where we started building this project. And quickly, from 2 universities, now we're working with over 307 countries. Most of the top-ranking institutions, use our service. So from your Ivy Leagues to state schools to community colleges and so on. So it's been an incredible journey.
An incredible journey. And what's interesting too is that you talked about hijacking that basement, working there. Was there a eureka moment when you and your co-founder, you're at university? Is there something that happens where you say, I wish I only had this particular tool, and then the light bulb goes off? Was there a moment like that?
To be honest, and just as a disclaimer, because this is actually my third company. I've had a failure. I've exited one. I just started early, guys. That's the secret. I don't think it's one eureka moment. It's usually going through that struggle, right? Like as entrepreneurs, we've all been through a time where, it just doesn't make sense. We started a business and we thought we would hit a certain, metric, and everything just goes left and right. And I believe it's those times of desperation where you really have to, as Mayor Clark said, dig deep and figure out what's wrong and what do you have to do to improve. I think it's an iteration. So to give you an example on our end, initially, our platform started out as a way to engage first-year students because, most of the retention and dropouts happening during first year. 35% of freshman college students in the U.S. drop out every year. Wow. the interesting data point here is the majority of them actually have a C grade or higher. So it's not the grades that are causing them to disengage. There's all these other factors, right? Like, what do I want to do? I can't, it's too complex, I'm too anxious, stress, do I fit in? All these things matter. And so initially we started understanding that, and every day and every month as we kind of grew, we started learning more and more deeper institutional problems because higher ed is going through a big change. Students have a lot of options. In the US, there's $1 trillion of student debt. In Canada, it's pretty significant too. And, as a student, we should be demanding, for example, I use the example, when you go to McDonald's and you say, I want a burger, you can customize it to your needs. I don't want lettuce, I don't want tomato. But if you go to university and spend tens of thousands of dollars, you're a statistic. And it shouldn't be that way. So we learn as we grow, and that's what we do. Yeah.
I want to jump back to something you said earlier on. You talked about a failed business, and I don't want to concentrate on the negative, but I do want to talk about the positive that comes out of that. When you go through that wall and you come out on the other side, was there someone, we're certainly talking about the Raj Manek mentorship program, was there a mentor there who could say, look, this isn't the end of your business career? Was there someone you could go to say, okay, there's better times ahead?
Yeah, I cannot stress that enough. My sort of philosophy is there are two ways you can learn. Either you learn the hard way, which I've done, or you learn through other people's mistake. People who've been through that who can share those insights with you, and that's really valuable. So from my example, and you kind of mentioned a failure, so I actually embraced that. The first company that did not work out, I remember I was a first-year student, and it was a video, sort of a journalism website. We had a lot of traffic from places like the Middle East and so on. But I couldn't afford the bills, to be honest. It's like you're a first-year student, $11,000 bill for bandwidth. I'm like, I don't even know how to get it. It's just you have to go through a lot of stress. So I had to shut it down. But the learning there was, you have to be at the right time at the right scale, right? At that point, bandwidth was still expensive, and building a video company just wouldn't scale. So you learn from that. Now, going back to the mentor part, I feel I've been really fortunate in the sense that I've had some excellent mentors, both Canadian and American. I can mention a few, from the former president of Fido Mobile, the founder of Second Cup, one of the co-founders of Yahoo. So just been excellent people that I work very closely with. So I highly encourage, learning from others, learning from people who have more experience than you, and they love to give back. One thing I've learned from every single entrepreneur, every single person who's successful is because, to be successful, you have to go through the struggle. You are going to give back, right? And this is why I'm here. When I learned about this, I was like, wow, this is happening in Saskatoon. I had no idea. And I was like, count me in. And I think Kanchan was surprised, like, this guy seems way too excited to join. Is he actually legit? I don't know. But that's just the way it is, because there was a time I remember where, it was a very difficult time where had to do with our company was going to run out of money in 10 days. And one of our investors pulled out, right? Like, how do you deal with that? You have 30 people who trust in you, and the investor, is trying to give you a deal which kind of, just squeezes you in. And, most entrepreneurs will take that. But I stood my ground, but a big part about that was because I picked up the phone and I called up some incredible people, and they're like, you know what? Never lose sight of your values. Stand by them. And integrity is important. And if you're doing the right thing, you will figure a way out. And surprisingly, we did. So, yeah.
And it's interesting, too, that you talked about giving back, and, it's not strictly about business. Most of it is, but it's not strictly about business, because you were involved in student government when you were at U of T. And there is an element of self-sacrifice when it comes to doing those kind of things. So I'm guessing that's also something that you would encourage, that taking care of business is very important, but also look outside and see if there's other ways within the community, either the smaller community or the larger community, that you can do.
No, I think that's incredibly important. And even though I'm from Toronto, but I was born in Pakistan, so I'm also an immigrant story here. I believe personally that Canada is the greatest nation, on the planet, because the openness, the opportunities that were given to me just wouldn't be possible anywhere else, right? And more what's happening south of the border, I think we have to be that beacon, right? And it's so powerful to create a culture and environment where, we just include people and we tell the younger generation, hey, you know what? You can do anything you want and we're here to support you. Just saying that is really, really powerful, and it empowers people, right? And so those are the things that, really touched me and inspire me to this day. So giving back to your community, please do. And from my experience, the most successful people I know, and many of them have, are billionaires. One guy has like 400 Ferraris in his garage. Check out my Instagram for that. But he will wake up 7 a.m. to have breakfast with me just to help me because I had a problem. I mean, it's amazing, right? And to young entrepreneurs out there, don't be shy to reach out to people. You will be surprised, that you will get a hand. You will get a helping hand. And I think the Manek Foundation is an excellent platform for that. Just to meet incredible people, like-minded people who share the same struggles and the joys like you. So,
How many Ferraris do you have?
Working on it. Actually, I prefer a Tesla. I'm part of the electric generation.
All
so
right.
yeah.
The super electric cars.
Yeah.
When it comes to the next big thing, and goodness knows, I'll say you struck gold with Ooh La La Mobile, and noticing that there was a need for that and a way to sort of customize, and I think you brought up a really good idea, a really good point about how the consumer now wants things that are incredibly individualized. We're seeing that in so many things, even in medicine. I'm not expecting you to be a soothsayer here, but what do you see on the horizon? So, Ooh La La, there you go, we're good with that. What's sort of on the horizon, maybe not necessarily for you, but what do you see on the horizon in terms of the consumer wanting customized things?
I can escalate that to society in general. I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, and I've started spending a bunch of time in China. And I'm telling you, folks, we are going through this rapid change and rapid, transformation. And, we hear buzzwords like AI taking over jobs. I mean, if you're in Palo Alto, and Mayor Clark and I were having this conversation, it's very normal to see driverless cars. Like every day I would see a few, and it's a very normal thing. And here it's like, oh my God, so things are moving really fast. So that's one area, like how do we as a society teach the next generation, which is what I'm passionate about, to conduct themselves in an economy which is going to be very different than the current one and the previous one, right? Where most of the work and labor will be, taken over by AIs, or they can do it. Mm-hmm. Maybe politics can stop it, but the march of history is always forward, never back. Right. So that's one. The second one is regarding, just medicine and genetics and bioengineering and so on. So that's another huge field that's transforming. Eventually where, you can probably tweak your child to be not just have green or blue eyes, but even be smarter or physically more attractive or physically stronger. And then the interesting question I have for parents is that, a lot of parents will say, no, I would never do that to my child. Right. But then would you ever live with yourself by not giving your child that advantage that you could have, right? So it's all these big questions, and they're not that far away. So you'd be surprised. So yeah.
And that's the thing. You bring up suddenly moral and ethical questions that, and going forward, and sometimes the march of time is so fast. Some of those questions get left in the dust. So it's I would think there too. It's incumbent on not people just in business, but in politics and everywhere. Just sort of keep those things, be mindful of those things as we go forward. You talk about AI and how the march of time moves forward and not back, and about the next generation. There's a lot of people out there like me who see the curve just going away, and it's like, how do I catch up? How about people my age that aren't so technologically adaptable? Is there a way for me to sort of get on this and not feel like I'm being left behind?
So first of all, Jeff, you're a young guy.
Thank you.
It's age
You'll
is
get your
relative.
money after the show.
So, interesting field. You know, there's a lot of research going on in aging as well, just to answer that question.
Okay, time for me to leave.
And we've sort of identified more or less, factors that cause aging. Broken down to what protein strands are actually causing your DNA to disrepair when as it replicates. The WHO is already drafted a document. I don't know when they're going to release it, where aging will eventually be called an ailment or a disease. It's not a fact of life, right? Like, we can control it, we can minimize it. And just to give you an idea, the average life expectancy in Congo today, due to the civil war and so on, is around 55. In Canada is 90, right? So that just gives you some perspective. Every year we're adding a year. So you will live long, my friend. As far as keeping up with the trends, there is an exponential curve to technology, and so the key thing I want to point out is there's a difference between how our human brains are think, which is linear, which is one step by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but exponential growth kind of doubles every step, right? So it's like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on. And that's just the nature of the world that we operate in, right? So for example, the telegraph industry lasted for a long time, right? And then you had, your phones, and then your mobile devices, and it just shortens and shortens. Internet has been there for a couple of decades. Smartphones, like 7 years, guys. iPads, maybe 6 years. And now there's a company in the Valley that's building contact lenses where you can actually see, an augmented reality experience in front of you. So the human brain, yes, is not equipped to deal with exponential changes. And quite frankly, politics is even behind. And that's going to be an issue that we have to deal with. Something to think about, Mir. So I would say that I don't believe anyone has the right answer for what you have to do to keep up. But the challenge is this: if you don't keep up, then you get left behind, right? And that's something to think about.
Fair enough. Are the Terminator robots coming? Is really what you're saying here? The Terminator robots are coming.
My friend, drones have been there for a decade. I mean, they've been blasting people for a while.
When Barbara Streisand can start cloning her dogs, it's we know the future is here.
Dogs have been cloned already.
Exactly. I know. We can explore a number of different things as we go forward, but I think what we'd like to do is open it up to the audience and for people who have questions. Kent Smith-Wisdor has a question, and I do believe our helpful assistant, Sona, is going to hand you the microphone there, Kent.
Thanks. So we're going to maybe step into dangerous territory around your customer base. And as a community, we look at the University of Saskatchewan, Sask Poly, the Saskatchewan Indian Institute of Technology, Gabriel Demont Technical Institute. And all of these institutions there's a wave coming, and it risks a great deal of rolling over them as compared to helping them get on top of the wave. So how do we as a community help coach these institutions to be able to compete with Udacity and the like?
Well, I think that is a fantastic question. In fact, the question you asked, I was speaking to the provost of an Ivy League just a month ago. He was asking the exact same question. How do you compete in this changing decentralized world where information and knowledge is now a commodity, right? You can access it anywhere. Why should I have to go to a university? So I will share an insight that the vice provost of McGill shared with me. This was last year, where when I asked him, what is the function of university, right? Why does a university exist? And he said, yes, it exists to provide career, and a job. Yes, it exists to educate, but the core function, this is sort of this very critical time period of youths and teenagers as they transform into adults and citizens, right? So that's also a role that university plays. It's sort of this safe space where we all can make mistakes. We all can learn a lot of these skills that weren't available to us, because in high schools, you're basically handheld, right? This is the first time you're going to get a credit card, first time you're going to get a phone bill. First time you're going to go through a lot of experiences and mistakes. So this whole construct of students or youths having to go through this 4-year period in one structured place and socializing face to face. That's one difference between a MOOC or Udacity versus an actual institution. And learning those critical skills is fundamental to how we see society and productive citizens. So I believe universities play a much deeper role. Now, that being said, are we doing a sufficient enough job to provide careers to students? I don't believe so, especially with the tuitions you're charging, right? At the end of the day, if a student is going to take a debt, we have to make sure they're able to, fulfill that. And part of our mission is just that, utilizing data to help them successfully graduate on time. So I'm not that pessimistic about it. I think students have a choice between a university or an online system, and choice is good. And I believe this is just gonna make universities, work even harder to achieve that, because they have to compete. So
basically, the marketplace is now including those post-secondary institutions?
Absolutely. And the other interesting trend is also globalization. So now you sort of have this interesting cohort of international students, who will pay 5 times the amount what a domestic student will to come in and be part of an institution, especially in Canada and the US, because we're seen as bastions of, good learning and good knowledge. And I think that also promotes a sense of, diversity, which is really important, because as a student, we're competing in a global world. So we have to know different cultures and nuances. So.
And it's interesting too. I'm just kind of curious. You talked about, because Ken was talking about, how do we coach these institutions to sort of recognize, what the new sort of paradigm is. So would the advice be to, you talked about, like being able to say, okay, we're going to give you the right academic credentials to go out and get a job or in a particular field, but is the overriding idea to sort of sell them on the idea that this is and when I say social, I don't mean that in a rock and roll kind of way, but the whole idea of coming to a university is that you're going to meet other people, you're going to expand your mind, you're going to maybe change your ideas about the way you look at. Is that where we should be focusing sort of the point, saying, okay, the career is one thing, but this is a life situation that you're undertaking?
Yeah, so I think to be practical and to be blunt, students have this expectation that if I'm paying for something, I should get a successful career, right? It is an obligation, more and more of every post-secondary institution. So that being said, and I'll put that aside for a second, there is something to socializing, and I don't mean it in a rock and roll kind of way either, although that's pretty awesome. Think about some of the best. In fact, think about if you look at the top Fortune 500s. And you look at the top 5 or 10, pretty much all of them are tech companies, right? Most valuable, Apple, then you have Google, Amazon, Facebook, all up there. Now, think about how Apple formed or Microsoft formed, right? It was students in their dorm room meeting with other students from other departments. So like Steve Ballmer was more finance, Bill Gates was, computer science, coming together. And at this age, you're starting to look around the world and see, what can I solve, right? This is that age. I mean, you don't have to worry about a job. You're just here for 4 years. You can deep think. You can discover. You can make mistakes. So this is actually a great environment to do really disruptive things. Like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, exactly the same situation, right?
I saw the movie. You bet.
So the movie's not entirely true, but
what?
Yeah.
Oh, the scales have fallen from my eyes.
Except for the parts where they're taking shots and coding, that is true.
Thank
totally,
goodness. Yeah. Any other questions? I know we've got more questions. So, you've already got the microphone.
Thank you for coming to Saskatoon. Welcome. And my question, you talked about your path towards Ooh La La and that it wasn't a linear path. What advice would you give to those with ideas for new business, for venturing out? What is the kind of the recipe for startup that, talk about the path that might not be all a linear golden path?
Okay, so the recipe of a successful startup is, and take notes everyone, there is no recipe, right? And the reason is actually very simple, right? From market economics point of view. Look, value and exponential value is almost always hidden, or it exists in uncertainty or white spaces, right? That's the definition of innovation. Because if it's certain, then it's priced in. Market's going to price it in, right? So there's no opportunity here. I completely agree with you when you say that it's not a linear path. It isn't. And I can give you examples of even successful companies. You know, I was just meeting some great sort of entrepreneurs, and they were sharing their stories, and you know, they have very successful companies. And they've been running their business for 32 years and so on, and yet even today, you know, there are ups and downs. That's just the nature of it. I think it goes back to the entrepreneur and the human element, the resilience, the perseverance, the passion, the drive that you have. And you know, when you start something, everyone's going to tell you it doesn't make sense, and it's bound to fail. And I'm not surprised. You know, you should always embrace that, right? In Silicon Valley, there's this thing, you know, embrace failure. Every time, you know, someone comes and say, oh yeah, I started a startup and it completely failed, and you know, the other guy will just give you a high five. Welcome to Silicon Valley. But the key learning here is that failure teaches you and makes you stronger. And I always say that, you know, regret in life is far worse than failure. To have tried and failed, you know what? It's okay. But to look back after years and say, what if I did that? I mean, I could never live with myself doing that, right? And yes, entrepreneurs are a little crazy, but I think it's the human elements and your perseverance that's you'll figure it out. Just keep going at it. And that's it. Yeah.
Next question. Somebody get the microphone. There we go.
I was fascinated to hear you say that university is a place where basically you sort of grow up. You're on your own. And we have a lot of involvement at the university, and it actually shocks me in two areas. One is when in the 60s and early 70s when I went, you had to get to the university early to get your bridge seat in the lounge. And now when I go there, the lounge is empty and the libraries are full. So I'm not seeing much social growth there. And plus the fact that most students have their face in their phone, and this concerns me. So that's one concern. The second one is I'm worried that students are not being allowed to grow up, that we have all these safe places and they're stressed, and we should all go there and give them cookies. You know what? Grow up.
And hot chocolate.
Oh, hot chocolate's very nice. And I have real concerns about generations coming where really they're about 10 years behind where they should be because they aren't allowed to grow up by themselves. Two is, some of them can't hold a conversation. And everything in life is based on sales, which means talking, not texting. You don't develop a relationship with a banker by texting him. So, can you give me your thoughts? Am I just an old guy who drank beer, got along with my buddies, and managed to survive to this point? Can you give me your thoughts on that?
So first of all, age is relative again. So we're all young. I think you've raised some very interesting issues here. I'll start by just giving some context. I was reading, and I love reading history. So I remember during the Vietnam War in the 70s, the previous generation used to blame them. Oh my God, these hippies! You know, they don't work hard anymore. They just want to be. They're entitled, and they just sit around and don't want a job, and they want to like share clothes and resources for free, and so on. So, you know, I think this is just a generation thing. Like things change, things evolve. I mean, the things that you're saying are very applicable to what your parents and the previous generation were talking about you in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, so it's really interesting. And you spoke about the smartphone, right? Which is seems to be a point of contention, definitely between generations. So, look, it's not that they're not communicating. They are communicating, but they're just using a different medium. It's the same way as someone's great-grandfather would be like, why are you, you know, I guess, well, grandfather, why are you kids always on the phone, right? Like, what's with this phone? Go out there, meet with people. You're talking hours on the phone. You know, people used to do that, right? You would just be sitting there on your house phone and just talking for hours. So I think it's just a natural evolution of how society is performing. Now, there are key differences. Generation Z, I'm part of the millennial generation, but you know, our generation was sort of like the last transition between the pre-internet to the post-internet age. But Gen Z, you know, they're all about real-time, you know, information. Because information, as I said, is a commodity. It's not locked up in research centers and universities. It is available at your fingertips. So kids and the challenge of this generation is not so much acquiring information. It's how do you distill the signal from the noise, right? And how do you know this is information versus disinformation? And that's the key challenge that they're facing. And they're doing it in their own way in the environment that they're shaping. So while I don't believe that, you know, what you're saying is incorrect or you're behind the times, I think our generation and the generation after, we're just dealing with these issues in our own way. And with the tools that we have, which is, you know, our text phones and our Ubers and our Amazon. I remember, like, you know, another interesting San Francisco story is where anything you need, you can actually just use your phone for, right? There's Instacart that will bring you fresh organic groceries 1 hour after you order, right? There's driverless cars. It's like everything is just instant. So it's just how we are. Now, the second point is regarding safe space. And I think that's a more, it's a more like, I wouldn't say contradictory, but like, yeah, it's a topic that kind of like is provocative. If you look at the history of universities, and if you look at you know, Harvard as being an example, I mean, it was based, you know, out of the church system. You know, that's what it was. And church and monasteries traditionally existed as safe spaces for all sorts of you know, different folks to have intellectual discussions. Remember, during the European Dark Ages, a lot of that knowledge of the Romans and the Greeks were in monasteries, right? And so that same model of learning has existed through, and that's what universities are. That being said, it is important to have open discourse, right? Part of intellectual discussion is you need to have 2 points of views. And I agree, in today's world, especially with social media, it's amplifying one message, meaning because the algorithms are getting smarter at understanding you and what you like, they're just amplifying that message again. It's only going to show you what you like, because for an algorithm, it just thinks, hey, I'm doing a good job, and the advertiser going to play for the click, or you're adding your friends that you like. So you only get the same message again and again, and that I agree with. It's not healthy, right? You know, societies and civilizations function with intellectual discourse and divergence of opinions, right? It's not a consensus of yeses. So, yeah.
Another question? Somebody already got the, who's got the mic? Oh, I guess you do. Looks like you got the mic.
Thank you. My name is Delapo, and I'm a student from the University of Saskatchewan and part of,
Awesome.
yeah, part of the Cansbridge Fellowship, which is a global network of young entrepreneurs all across Canada. As a university student, I sincerely appreciate the work you do, because for me to be able to customize my university experience to influence my long career goals is very, very important to me. And so kudos to you on that. My question is around your background in university. I checked your LinkedIn, hopefully that's not creepy, but I noticed that...
No, it's normal. I'm surprised you didn't check my Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you know.
No, I noticed that your background is in economics and political science. Yep. So how did you then navigate, number one, collecting the right data sets for Ulala, for your machine learning algorithm? And then once you collected the right data sets, how did you then transfer it to a proper algorithm that would provide value, given that you're not from a tech background? Is that more from your co-founder? And how did you always make sure to keep yourself technically updated in an ever-changing economy? Thank you.
That's a good question. So disclaimer here. I actually got into U of T with a scholarship for computer science specialist. I dropped out of it, and I'll tell you why. I've been building things, and you know, when I say entrepreneurs, a little wired differently. And you know, the first thing I ever built was when I was 16 years old, when I automated our local police station's payroll system in Visual Foxborough, right? So I've been building stuff. And when I went into university, you know, it's things I could already do. So for me, university was interesting because I wanted to learn things that were outside of my comfort zone. But it kind of relates back to, you know, the other way around too. So I'm sort of like, I've seen the technology side, I've also seen the business side, and so I do both. My advice would be is, again, it goes back to the team, your co-founders. Great companies and organizations are always built by great people, you know, and great teams. And I'm sure like there are so many distinguished, you know, entrepreneurs here, and ask them about this story and they'll tell you, right? It's the people at the end of the day that matter. So go out there, find someone, you know, who fulfills that skill set, come together, and this is what university is all about, right? Explore, challenge, you know, question, you know, get out of your safe space, as you may want to call it to a certain degree, and look at the world around you. There's so many challenges, there's so many opportunities, and the best thing about being in Canada is, you know, you have the full support, and I would say Saskatoon, after learning, you know, from Mayor Clark, is like, you have a community that supports you. That's incredible, right? And appreciate that. You know, I certainly do. So
when you fixed this police situation, did you create little back doors so you could deal with parking tickets? You can take the fifth.
Yeah, we can take it offline. Yeah, we can take this offline.
Okay, I think you got a question over there.
So as a tech founder right now, or co-founder of a company, I've noticed that there's a severe lack of people who are trained for the future economy, which is very, very heavily focused on computer science and understanding how computers operate at their lower levels, and understanding that that's where the job market's becoming. That's the new trades. And in knowing that, and going through university and leaving knowing that the education experience that I had I was sorely unprepared for the actual development world. I've also been talking to my younger cousins who are currently going through the education system, primary and secondary education system, praying that at least something's changed to prepare them maybe a little bit more going into the future. And I found out that some of their schools, and their large schools here in the province, don't even offer computer science and those kind of core skills that are going to be needed going into the future. So what my question is to you, and this might be a little bit loaded, is what levers, because you come from a political studies background, what levers politically should we be applying as people who are in the tech industry and who are in this future kind of economy to encourage our leaders to make sure that our education system, and not just post-secondary, which obviously you've been very involved in, but our entire education system actually keeps up with where the economy is going and ensuring that people can actually get jobs going into the future?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I have a question for you. What does your company do?
We are building a fully autonomous smart home system that basically learns about how people interact with their home and then turns that into automations for them so they don't have to control their own home.
So it's sort of like an IoT central hub that...
It's a software solution, but yes,
Okay, cool.
exactly.
Awesome. That's really cool. So here's the reality, right? And it's widely discussed, which is technology is, growing at an exponential rate. As much as I love the government and politics and bureaucracy, there's no chance in hell they're going to catch up. It's just not going to happen, right? I was speaking to someone from the government of Norway, and they have a very small population, very tightly controlled when it comes to higher education. They have problems, right? And they also have the largest sovereign wealth fund, right? Every Norwegian is technically a millionaire. So yeah, and they're having problems. So look, here's the thing though. The internet has, as I said, decentralized information, right? Your cousins don't need to wait for the government or the provost or the president to step in and say, hey, here's the things that we're going to do. They should just jump in and learn, right? And then again, this goes back to the human element, right? As a human being, you have to nurture that curiosity. It's the same things. It's just the tools have changed, but successful citizens still have to act the same way. So that would be my biggest advice is like, look, there's no excuse for you not to do your best. Get out of your comfort zone and your safe space and explore and take risks and learn, because this is the age we can do that, right? Once you have a family and you're 40, it gets harder. And ask folks around, they'll tell you it gets much harder. So.
But I think this gentleman was also asking, it's like, because he said about schools not even offering those things to sort of nurture, we're going to need IT people, we're going to need support systems. So is there the impetus that we can take to have the political will to say, let's have our schools at least offer these things? Yeah, so I agree with that. And I feel like universities usually are a function of their community. So we work with schools in Texas and even in rural counties in Texas, and their programs are more structured around agriculture, right? But here's the flip side to this. Yes, computer science is now being offered. I believe you can still learn computer science from outside, but one of the biggest advantages I would say, personally, that I think Saskatoon has is, you folks have an amazing base of, mineral, manufacturing, mining, agriculture. And software is going to disrupt all of these industries. In fact, the market cap, I would argue, is much bigger than the next Instagram, and you're actually going to, solve the world's problem or make things more efficient. So I believe that, it's highly possible the next billion-dollar companies that come out of the mining space or the manufacturing space could very well be from here. You have everything, right? And you have the support of the community too. So what's keeping you guys? That's my question, right? What's happening here? And we got a river. There you go.
You guys have a river. Yeah.
Another question right over here.
Hey, coming from another startup and also having failed one with Lee J recently.
High five.
Nice. It's a fairly simple question, but I've never gotten a great answer. How do you keep that group of people together, your co-founders, your people, and how do you stop them from trying to save the world?
Yeah, great question. And so this is where the where the answer of computer science is not the answer to all your problems, all your life problems comes in. At the end of the day, we're still working in a world where human beings make decisions. Now, that may change 100 years from now where algorithms make all their decisions. But until then, we still have to learn how to operate in a team. So I think it goes back to the vision. It goes back to the founders. It goes back to the shared sense of value and principles that you share with each other. It also goes back to grit and perseverance. We had someone ask about safe spaces, and we want to make sure kids can deal with the challenges of life. I think startups is one of the best things you can do. It's good. The odds of failure are really high, by the way. 70 to 80% of startups fail. That's just the reality of it. but the learnings you're going to get out of that, it's incredible. So if you're asking me how do I keep my team aligned with me, then I would say it starts with you, right? It's your vision, your values, what problem you're trying to solve, and finding the same folks that are aligned that will go through the struggle. My usual answer in my previous startups and companies have been, look, it's one of the best filtering processes. When people quit, yeah, they're giving up. That's the easy path, right? Yeah, just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to walk away. Same thing for politicians, right? Hey, I'm running for a race. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Polls are not going my way. I'm just going to walk away. That's the easy thing to do, walk away. The hard thing is to persevere. And the fact that you're persevering means you're doing the right thing. Just keep at it.
Okay, I think we've got a question over here.
Hello, Robert Grain from Regina visiting today. So the question is in your travels, you see lots of different cities and countries, and I see Amazon Prime as a huge problem for local business and people that, we all have a door. We want people to come into it and buy things from us. Are there cities or countries that have similar things as Amazon that are able to compete on getting their clients to come to the door rather than to the keypad?
That's an interesting question. It actually raised a bigger issue that I do want to just talk about, and then I'll come back to your question. I apologize for taking the sidetrack here. But here's another big challenge that's happening today when it comes to big companies and where the world is headed towards. So I won't name the person, but this person is one of the original 90s billionaires, worked very closely with the founders of Google and so on. And one day I was having lunch with him, and he just was really worried. And I was like, what's happening? Why are you, we talk about innovation, you always walk away just feeling like this sense of pessimism. And he's like, these are dangerous times in the sense that today, more and more, rather than having a group of very, many different companies serving many different things, the world is just kind of coming together in what you call a tyrannical fashion, where a few companies just know so much about you and they control so much of the distribution that it's very difficult to compete against them. I mean, they're just natural monopolies that just keep scaling. Amazon is an excellent example of that, right? They started with books. Now they're doing pretty much everything. Walmart is on the back foot. Everyone's on the back foot. They're probably the only business led by a founder that's built $200 billion each, businesses within that entity, the cloud service and the Amazon. They're now taking over distribution. So he was telling me a story that, the CTO of FedEx quit, and he gave him a call. These guys, and he asked him why, and he's like, well, you know what, Amazon's just going to it's just eating our lunch. And the story he shared was that initially, all the distributors like FedEx and UPS embraced Amazon because their traditional margins came from these big boxes from, commercial items that they used to sell. Now with Amazon, it's like small boxes, right? And small boxes weigh less, and the margins are better, right? And they're driving 90% of the business. And then eventually one day, folks from Amazon come in to one of their airports and start replicating what they're doing. And now they're running their own distribution chain, right, which they announced last year, so I can talk about it. So where does this stop? Another interesting question. Facebook, right? It is the most engaging platform that human beings use today on mobile devices and on the internet. So they have like 1 billion plus monthly active users, 1 billion plus. You trust them with a lot of your information. And he posed this question to the CIO of JP Morgan when he said that, what happens tomorrow if Facebook decides to do personal banking? Think about it, right? You use them every single day. You're buying and trading goods unofficially. What if they're just getting to the banking scene, right? It'll be so seamless. I can tell you from my generation, we're like, thank God I don't have to deal with these big banks anymore, right? It's just so seamless. So the good news is efficiency. The bad news is all of this power is just being kind of like concentrated into a few companies that are just getting more bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's an interesting world, and they have so much data on you. Like, you would be like surprised, and I don't want to go into a whole tangent on that, but yeah.
Thanks, you're scaring me. Great, that's terrific. I won't sleep tonight. We've probably got time for just maybe one more question. Oh, right over there.
Hi, my name's Jeff Shirley, and I have a tech business here in Saskatoon that's had, in the spirit of tonight, some mentorship from a corporation, Innovation Saskatchewan and CoLabs. So I have a question. I want to go back to something you said earlier tonight where we started at. Your business has a lot of machine learning algorithms, et cetera, in it, and some AI, I would presume, and your car of choice was a Tesla. So I want to ask you a future question. Elon Musk keeps saying we have to get into laws around AI and machine learning and where this is going to go. I'm curious on your insight into the future and what those laws might look like, or if we need them, and if so, why? Because there's companies like Boston Dynamics doing some really interesting things out there.
Yeah.
That's my question for you. Thank you.
Oh, wow. I mean, I can spend a whole night talking about this stuff. So look, here's the challenge, right? We know that AIs are more efficient than human beings on pretty much, most things, including creativity, guys. I mean, that's not there anymore, and I'll be happy to share data after this. So they're better at us. They don't require food. They'll run. They don't complain. They don't mutiny. They don't revolt. They just run efficiently. And in this day and age, when you sort of have this market system where everything, is focused on competition and efficiency, can you afford not to jump into this, into this space? And same thing politically, right? Like, let's say if Canada decides, and by the way, Canada is actually one of the leading places in the world when it comes to AI. The founding paper of a deep learning neural net was written in University of Montreal and University of Toronto. So we're actually leading the research on that, which is very exciting. So the question I have is that, if let's say Canada decides we're not going to get into this, right? Because this could be scary, they could kill us, and et cetera. And all of these are possible. These are widely talked about. But then China decides to, jump in, or the US decides to jump in. Remember, it's an exponential game. So the folks that get in early will have a huge advantage, right? And it's hard to catch up. Can you afford that? So this is a very classic game theory question where this could end really badly, but if you don't jump in, the other side will have an advantage, so you can't afford not to jump in, right? So it's one of those things where it's going to be a reality. We're going to have to deal with it. Now, Elon has one point of view, which is, AI need to be controlled, and it needs to be regulated, and it can get out of, control. And I agree with that. At the same time, it's not something you can avoid. Like, this is going to be our generation's challenge, right? All of these like AIs and even biology, by the way. I believe in the near future, it's going to be the first time in human history where we have the potential to split as a species, meaning you're bioengineering yourself, right? To the point where you're not a natural entity anymore, right? It's the first time it's ever happened. So this will create a class of haves and have-nots that have never existed before, right? And think about it this way. You go back to all throughout our history, we've had kings and we've had the elite and we've had all of this, monarchies and different systems of governance. But at the end of the day, the number one factor of resource was always the human being, because we're the most intelligent, factor of production that's out there. So generals need to have armies to fight, because there's nothing better than them to fight. But now a general has drones and automated planes that don't complain, they don't mutiny, and they're highly efficient, way more efficient than human beings. So then the question comes in, why do I need these human beings, right? And put in the biology aspect. Now you're splitting as a species, and you're way different than them. So then you create a situation where when the Europeans came to, to America, we all know how that ended up. So I don't have a good answer for you, but these are things that, our generation, we're going to have to deal with this, and we're going to have answers for it. So.
Wow, we're ending on a real high note there. Here we go. So basically, Blade Runner 2049 was a documentary.
Yeah.
Well, we do want to thank our special guest, Daniel Jamil, for being with us today and this evening, rather, and sharing his insights into the future and the present with regard to building business and sharing mentorship. And we want to present him with a token of our esteem. I just want to pick it up very, very gently. So thank you so much for being with us today in Saskatoon.
Does it have a sensor?
What's that?
Does it have a sensor?
Of course it does. It's the future. But thank you so much. An absolute pleasure. And thank you so much, Daniel Jamil. Some very interesting things that Danielle had to tell us there. And we've got some interesting things to let you know about right now. We have a few awards to give away this evening to acknowledge what people have done in our community. Roy, should I be changing to the other microphone? Sure, I should. There you go. I just get microphone bound there. We would like to call on Jim Nowakowski. He's going to talk about the Above and Beyond Award and make a presentation tonight. So there he is right there. You'll have to go all the way around. Jim, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Jeff. Before I get started, though, I just want to tell you, if I sound like I'm slurring my words, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I may have had one too many drinks. I recently had dental surgery, and I'm missing a front tooth. So, as my wife Brenda would tell you if she was telling you this story, she would say, I was talking when I should have been listening. But that's her story. That's not really the way it happened. So anyway, it is my pleasure to be here with you tonight to present the Above and Beyond Award. And the criteria for the Above and Beyond Award is as follows. The nominee has demonstrated one or more of the following characteristics or achievements, is recognized for their dedication and support in cultivating and encouraging business in Saskatchewan. Number 2, is an individual who shares their time, knowledge, and wisdom assisting or mentoring business people in their community. Number 3, has been recognized for their enthusiastic service in encouraging and assisting entrepreneurs in business. Number 4, has exemplified extraordinary commitment in creativity and or effort to promote entrepreneurship in Saskatchewan. Number 5, has earned respect from the community and their workplace through their involvement in the business community. And finally, number 6, has made an outstanding contribution to the success of entrepreneurship above and beyond that would be expected of a person in their position. This year, I'm very pleased to share with you the Above and Beyond Award recipient is Lester Lafond. To tell you a little bit about Mr. Lafond, he is the president of Lafond Financial Corp. This is a wholly owned management company that provides consulting, management, and business advisory to individuals and First Nations organizations. He is also the former president of Lafond Insurance Financial Services Limited. Mr. Lafond has served the First Nations governments in the field of property taxation by helping them build and maintain fair and efficient First Nations property tax regimes to ensure the First Nations communities and their taxpayers receive the maximum benefit
from those systems. As past chair of the FSIN, Mr. Lafond reviewed and recommended funding, strategic, and planning proposals by the First Nations and tribal councils throughout the Saskatchewan region. In 2006, Mr. Lafond was awarded the Saskatchewan Order of Merit for contributing to the social, cultural, and economic well-being of the province and the province's residents. The award recognizes individuals who have made their mark in such areas as business and industry, community leadership, public service, research, and volunteer service. As a former Treaty Land Entitlement Coordinator, or TLE, Mr. Lafond provided services to the TLE activities for the Muskeg Lake. He provides direction and negotiations for the service, infrastructure, financing, and development for Aspen Developments, a wholly owned company of the Muskeg Lake Cree Nation. Mr. Lafond obtained financing for Muskeg Lake and the Saskatoon Tribal Council for their 3 office complexes. He also coordinated and negotiated the development of the Petrocan service station and successfully negotiated the leases for industrial buildings in the industrial park. Mr. Lafond has served on a number of organizations in numerous capacities. He is the past president of the Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce, chairperson, Saskatoon Chamber Aboriginal Committee, and board and executive member of the Chamber organization. Chairperson and board of the First Nation Agricultural Council of Saskatchewan, former board member of the Indian Taxation Advisory Board, former board member of the Saskatoon Regional Economic Development Authority, as a board member to promote new business into the Saskatchewan business area. Former board member of the Saskatchewan Housing Corporation, former chairperson and board member of the Saskatchewan Disabilities Council, former tribal chief of the Saskatoon Tribal Council, former chairperson / board member of the Saskatchewan Indian Agricultural Program, and finally on my list, but I'm sure it's not final or the least because too numerous to mention, former chairperson of the Muskeg Cree Nation School Committee. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Mr. Lester Lafond. This is your trophy, but it is some heavy.
Yes, I understand.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the Raj Manek Foundation for the award this evening. I also like to thank the organization for doing this kind of work for the last 22 years in this community and for Saskatchewan. Thank you. They are showing the importance of employment and business development to the community of Saskatoon and Saskatchewan. I'm pleased to have received this award. I've seen a lot of changes in the last 35 years in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and Canada, with respect to both First Nation employment and First Nation business entrepreneurship. Just to give you a taste of what's occurred in history. I was interviewed by CBC North about First Nations people and how to get them more into the workforce. First, I indicated that 80% plus of the hiring is done by small business. They obviously hire their family, their family's friends, their friends' acquaintances. That's the system. That's the network. That's the way it was. In some cases, still is. Secondly, I indicated we must do the same. We need more First Nation businesses, business owners, so that we can do the same system of networking and hiring. That would help us enter the workforce. Third response was, at the moment, with respect to the first part, we have been prevented by any major hiring because there is a racist perspective or perception of our members or our people that's causing few hirings. That interview took place in the late 80s. Where are we today? There has been an improvement, a plus, a positive, because a lot more First Nations people are viewed as professional and technically trained. They have credentials. There's more First Nation businesses, partnerships leading to greater demand for First Nations people. Yes, as I indicated earlier in my life, the formula holds. We own businesses, we own partnerships in businesses throughout Saskatchewan, and we hire many, many First Nations people. Those successes are both financial and, of course, for the employees and their families. But, there's always a but. We're not out of the woods yet on racism. It still exists, but we all need to work very hard to eradicate it from our society for all that are visibly and disabled in terms of racism. As indicated, I've provided many advisory and consulting services, not only to my community, but to a number of First Nation communities throughout Western Canada. I involved in a number of different sectors, from tourism to industry to, believe it or not, fishing in BC, to agriculture in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And of course, many of you are aware of the Urban Reserve here in Saskatoon. I was involved for 25 years in terms of the TLE work with respect to my community and other First Nation communities within Saskatchewan. What's important is those developments and those urban reserves, which are nearing 40 in Saskatchewan, are economic powerhouses, economic opportunities, and employment centers for First Nations people and others. As I indicated, our industrial park has about 400 people, probably 250 to 275 of First Nations, and just a number of non-First Nations, so it is an employment center. There was talk in the presentation, I am still involved in First Nations taxation. I'm still a commissioner. We promote property tax. That's one aspect that we don't talk about in terms of business because it seems like it's politics. But we do support and ask First Nations if they wish to generate taxation. I know, why would we want to promote something we don't have and put it in place? But we all know governments need to survive by having other source revenues, and I've always found taxation as one of the best sources of revenue for both the stability of it and for the need for the communities to develop. We, of course, generate sales tax revenue on tobacco and gasoline. We have other opportunities. As late as yesterday, as much as we hear about reconciliation by Canada, they actually passed a bill, it's now in the Senate, that has ignored or omitted First Nations from having taxing powers on cannabis. We cannot, at this moment, tax if they're working or reselling retail on our reservations. Fortunately, in hearing the comments from a number of senators, they're appearing to amend that bill to make that correction. We have Department of Finance officials scrambling saying that reconciliation is in place, and they did consult, but somehow it didn't get into the bill. My experience in the last 40 years with Department of Finance has not been positive. I had the pleasure of being involved in some of the more high-volume employment centers, and I talk about the casinos. For trivia, which I don't put down very often, I was the first chairman of SIGA for a few months. I found it too challenging because I had other responsibilities, as you can see, or had. But that is, under one corporate banner, the largest employer of First Nations people in this province, and probably Canada. Yes, there's more people probably working for the Prince Albert Grand Council's mini corporations or Meadow Lake Tribal Council's mini corporations in terms of volume, but under one corporate banner, SIGA leads the pack. A success story for not only our community, but for our governments. And a great opportunity for Whitecap, especially for the Saskatchewan area. I had the pleasure and opportunity to work for Whitecap in terms of the development, coordination, and project management and construction of the Dakota Dunes Golf Course. Something I pride that I had the opportunity and very comfortable in having to enjoy it every once in a while in the summer. As indicated, I've been involved in many projects throughout Western Canada, especially with First Nations and individuals, always with the belief that we need a middle class. And I started that comment in the early 80s. I believe somebody in this country keeps repeating it. I'm not sure who that is. The bottom line, and I think most of you are familiar with that phrase, is that success creates the expansion and participation of First Nation labor force and, of course, First Nation business. Thank you very much. And for the small business, I hope you have a great year. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lester. We now come to another award this evening. This is, I love the name of this award. Well, the previous one was the Above and Beyond, and that's, pretty self-evident as well. And we also have one that's got an interesting name. It's called the Find a Way Award. The full title is the Ravi Mathiel Find a Way Award. The award is named after the late Ravi Mathiel, who served on the Raj Manek Foundation since 1997. He worked tirelessly to serve on the board of directors until his passing in June 8th of 2016. Ravi was also the co-founder of the Raj Manek Mentorship Program. His words of encouragement were always, find a way. His message to everyone was, never give up, never take no for an answer, and despite any hurdles, there is always a way of achieving your goals. He believed in always raising the bar. The award is presented to an individual who has demonstrated extraordinary ability to provide solutions to any given problem which others may have felt impossible. An individual who finds ways to attain optimal results. Ravi's widow, Kathy, and daughter, Sheila, are with us here tonight. Where are you ladies? They are right there. So thank you for being with us tonight. And this year's recipient is Catherine Renier, and she could not be with us this evening. She is represented, though, by Braylon Tkach, and we'd like to call her up to the stage right now to receive the award on her behalf. I see she has notes. I think she's going to say a few words.
She sent me with a speech. So I'm very excited to be accepting this award on behalf of Catherine, but however, I did tell her that I'd only do this if she wrote the speech. So I'd love to share some words from Catherine. Hello, everyone. I'm very disappointed that I could not be in the room with you tonight. However, when I suggested canceling our family vacation, I could tell by the look on my husband's eyes that it wasn't going to happen. I am completely blown away to be the recipient of the Ravi Mathel Find a Way Award. It is so fitting to my journey in getting here today. Mentorship has been the cornerstone of our recent success, and many of us in this room tonight have been transformed with the brilliance of the Raj Manek Mentorship Program. So thank you. A quick story of what I call tough mentorship from back in 2011. I received our first phone call in our tiny office of 3 people in Innovation Place. It was our largest customer calling to tell me that they would be canceling their contract. This customer paid all our bills, like 99% of them. So I did what any 20-something CEO would do. I called my mom, full of distress and tears. And this is what I call mentorship at its finest. My mom replied, and I quote, "Catherine, pull yourself together, get off the phone them back, and find a way to get it done." Most people don't know this, but that message has been at the heart of myself and of Coconut. No excuses, just find a way. My team of 35 strong, brilliant individuals have never let me down to this date, as each one of them ensures our company is successful because together we find a way to get to the next milestone and the next one. Mentorship, along with conviction, will always equal success. In fact, it's impossible not to. Thank you to the Raj Manek Mentorship Program for the award. I am extremely grateful and appreciative. Greg Sutton from Tiny Eye for the nomination, and all the conversations over the years. Thank you to Romeo Ayula, Lori Dimitrition, Jackie Presnell, Neil Dempsey, Steve Woods, Paul Teshma, Mike Rading, and the IRAP team, and so many others for helping elevate Coconut's success through resources and mentorship. Thank you and have a fabulous evening.
This one's heavy too. You got heavy awards in this family. All right, well, we're on to another award here, and I'm going to call on Ken Smith Windsor to present the Ken Smith Windsor Leadership Award.
The Success Room. People that are involved in the Raj Manek Mentorship Program will know what that means. And just so you know, I did major at Bridge University. People will know I'm uncomfortable in this sort of spotlight piece. I always consider myself a bit of a stage manager. However, the Chamber Board and staff team were good enough to pass around the hat and develop a funding base for a project that could helpfully continue to propel Saskatoon forward, seeing over the horizon. And we talked about it as an award and thought about it in our conversations and talked more about preparing Saskatoon for the future. And so what we've come up with is an award that will help both an individual and our community do that. So the criteria for the nominee was achieve one or more of the following: an entrepreneur who is a high potential individual expected to achieve senior leadership position in their community in the future, has acquired considerable knowledge and experience as a leader in their business or in the community, has an appreciation of the economic and social conditions impacting their community, has the capacity for leadership and is able to contribute to the business community by inspiring those around them, and has strong interpersonal skills. So what we're dealing with is developing a program that is a financial award to help this person continue on their path for self-discovery, leadership, and anticipatory leadership, not only for their own business, but our community. So there's a responsibility around this in terms of encouraging them to attend events. We've discussed a few to give people a couple of ideas. The Aspen Institute is a project that I had the privilege to be involved with many years ago. It's an education policy leadership development group based out of Washington, D.C., was founded by several chiefs of staff of presidents over the years, and was the finest leadership program that I ever got involved with. They have programs offered throughout the United States and on occasion in Canada. And so the individual has the choice to be involved in that. A project that might be involved with Udacity. And the other component that we looked at was Singularity Summit. The Singularity program was developed by Ray Kurzweil, who was one of the leading futurists in the world, along with Peter Diamandis, who's the founder of the X Prize Foundation, and is now working on a project that helps people grow their own replacement organs. So the Singularity Summit was held in Toronto this past year, but the major event it has held in San Francisco in August each year. We developed, from the funding of the Chamber of Commerce, under the auspices of the Raj Manek Mentorship Trust, a financial bursary for an individual to be able to take their choice of these personal development projects to help them and their business see over the horizon, but then give back to the mentorship and protege program by providing a presentation on their learning takeaways. So this year, we're really pleased to be able to identify an individual that has, year on year, from a very young age, offered amazing wisdom, a clear ability to see over the horizon, and that's Greg Sutton.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I thank you so much. This means a great deal to me, and it's an absolute honor to be presented with this. I've known Kent for a number of years, and when I was starting out in my business and in my career, he often offered me a lot of advice. And I remember a lot of times I was struggling and say, "How's your business plan looking?" And at first I was like, I don't know how to get this all sorted out. He's like, "Let's simplify it. I got a 4-word business plan for you. Have fun, make money." And I threw everything out, and I just been focusing on that for the last number of years, and it works. It's the best business plan we could ever imagine, and it's been great to have Kent as a mentor over the years, and I'm excited to take on this leadership learning opportunity and bring some of that knowledge back to this community. So once again, thank you, and have a great evening.
I got to mark that down. Have fun, make money. This is going to work out great. And right now, what we do is like to sort of report on what's been going on with the Raj Manek Mentorship Program throughout the year. And so this is a quick sort of year-end report. And I'm not a CEO. I'm just the guy up here with a microphone. So I'm the one who's going to be telling you a little bit more about what happened this year. Well, it's pretty impressive, is what I can see from my vantage point. The mentorship program mentored 40 total protege companies in Saskatchewan and Edmonton, so over 2 provinces. That's pretty impressive right there. Awarded the 2017 Raj Manek Memorial Prize in Entrepreneurship to 2 students from the University of Saskatchewan, Brianne Walkenden and Graham Zacharias. They also held monthly seminars for protege partners. We would like to thank the presenting sponsor of tonight's event, that is Nutrien, so thank you very much. And we have a number of corporate sponsors we would like to acknowledge at this moment, and if you wouldn't mind holding your applause until I'm finished this list, because it's pretty extensive and pretty impressive. So the companies that were corporate sponsors: Ag Bio West, the Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce, Entrepreneurs with Disabilities Program, the Government of Saskatchewan, Ministry of Trade and Export Development, Innovation Place, Odyssey Chartered Accountants, Edmonton, Prairieland Park, Tiny Eye, Riverbed Plantation, the Saskatchewan Indian Gaming Authority, and Sutton Financial Group. So thanks to all those organizations. We do appreciate their help. And we'd also like to point out, before I get to any more acknowledgments, on your tables there's these little tent cards. And if you had a chance to take a look at them, maybe they're self-evident, but what they are, if you haven't had a chance to look at them a bit more closely, what they are the individuals have been the protégés and the mentors, and the protégés have written about their mentors and the impact that they've made on them. So it's certainly worthwhile taking a look at those particular 10 cards for a bit more in the way of background on certain individuals and the partnerships they have formed and the relationships they have formed. But at this time, I would like to thank the mentors and have them and the protégés, and they wouldn't mind standing up if they're in the room tonight, those individuals who have helped out. Yes. And in a very typically Saskatchewan or Canadian self-effacing way, nobody really wanted to stand up. So I do appreciate you doing that, because this really does put faces to the program. The individuals that are making those connections and learning from individuals who have gone through the struggles that Danielle was talking about. You know, those startups that don't work out. You know there are better times ahead if you stick to your guns and have an idea and have a passion. So that's certainly what this is about tonight, and acknowledging that and celebrating that situation. We'd also like to thank the board members, and that those individuals are Lee Whittington, Michael Kosar, Paul Martin, and Greg Sutton. So certainly thank those individuals for being on the board. We want to thank them for their vision, their guidance, and their support to make the organization what it is. We'd like to thank the Saskatoon and Regina Chambers and Edmonton Executive Committee in helping match mentors with protégés. It's important. It's one thing to have those individuals, but obviously very important to make those right connections, to see how those individuals dovetail and can learn from each other, but certainly you can find the right protégé for the right mentor. It's so important. Certainly like to thank Innovation Place for offering their space for monthly seminars. Now, I think there's some people here from Innovation Place. They're one of the sponsors, okay? Oh, they're where? Oh, there they are over there. So thank you to the people at Innovation Place. They have been very supportive, and goodness knows, it is a lovely park. Perfect for wedding photos, I might add. They got a fountain, they got statuary. It's beautiful. What's that? And we'd also like to thank the Prairie Land staff for their excellent service and amazing food. They always put on a great evening here. So thanks to Prairie Land staff. And thanks so much to Emil and Roy over there. I've worked at Prairie Land Park in a number of different situations, but the attention to detail when it comes to sound. And there you have it. There's the answer right now. I've been in lots of different situations where it hasn't worked out. So yes, thank you, Roy. Thank you, Emil. Weisenheimer. So thanks to Prairie Land Park. I mean, it's an amazing host, and in particular, Jay, Keith, Greg, and Gerald. They've been terrifically helpful throughout the year and throughout the process of putting on this evening as they have in the past. Just to wrap things up, the nominations for the 2019 award recipients is now open, so please visit the Manek Mentorship website for details. Thank you for coming tonight. We really do appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing everyone here again next year. Please keep up to date with the foundation and the program through social media, and that's certainly, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those things. And one last thing, we mentioned the step and repeat. Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm so hip. The step and repeat selfie wall back there. If you're going to be taking some photos tonight with you and your friends and other individuals you maybe just met the first time tonight, a new friend you met tonight, well, if you take a picture back there or any photos you take and you're going to share on social media, if you wouldn't mind hashtagging it Manek Mentorship, hashtag Manek Mentorship, that would be great, because it's a great way to spread the good word of what this organization and this foundation does in our community. And now, of course, it's spreading its wings throughout the province and across borders. So thank you so much for being here tonight. It was a terrific evening. Thanks to Sona and her family and Mom for inviting me to be the MC tonight. It was a real pleasure. And thank you so much, and drive safe.